Welcome to our open forum this morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. There'll still be a few people, I think, filtering in a little bit, but we'll get started here and ask Pastor Bigelow to open with prayer here.
Thank you, Bob. All right, we'll bow our heads and we'll pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we are humbled by the gifts and the blessings that you pour out to us in our lives, Lord. Most of all, the gift of eternal life that we have in Jesus. That is our true source of joy. Nothing can take that away, and nothing can diminish that. Of knowing the eternal perfection at home in heaven that is ours because of what Christ has done for us. Lord, as we continue to go out and share that message with more, Lord, bless our congregation. And as we gather together at this open forum, as we see these plans laid before us to do this and fill us with excitement, but also with the zeal to carry out your mission and your ministry. And that's what it's all about, Lord. And we thank you for the many people involved in the various ways, in the hard hours and the dedication and serving you and your people, Lord, through this process. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Again, welcome this morning. For our agenda this morning, we'll just an update on where we are with the overall project plan, a little bit of where we are from a financing standpoint, those things that have happened over the past couple of months since we last got together, a little bit on where we are with respect to our Wisconsin Avenue site, and our overall strategy. And then also a big part of the building committee update today, Char Boucher, who has headed up the Interiors Committee, is going to be sharing a lot of the work that they've been doing over the past several months for really starting to cover a lot of the details, interior, as well as some of the exterior, but the primary focus today to give us a good picture. And if you notice out in the fireside room, those samples that are out there are examples of, or not examples, but they are the selections that have been made by the committee. So a little bit of a chance to touch and feel that, as well as some of the photos that we'll have this morning. It's just been amazing, humbling and just amazing to see the amount of blessings that God has blessed St. Matthew's with. We think back over the past year. We just about a year ago had got together as a congregation and made a decision that we were going to very actively move forward with our single site ministry plan and with expanding our facilities. And it really goes back before that. We recall over almost 2 years ago when we had our ministry evaluation Sundays, which really set the groundwork for what are the ministry focuses of us here at St. Matthew's, what are the opportunities that we have in front of us, and then out of that, what type of facility needs do we have? And that's what really drove the facility plans that had begun. And so here we are, about 2 weeks from a groundbreaking ceremony and service out at the Brown Street location. So tremendous blessings for all of you. The participation, whether you were volunteering on one of the committees or asked to volunteer for one of the committees, that has been truly a blessing for us. The leadership team, the input that everybody has given us, from the steering committee to the building committee to the finance committee to the interiors committee, a lot of people doing a lot of work, and so very much appreciate that. And again, all of your support as well. Just a quick overview, just a refresher on I know we've seen this a number of different times, but the project overall includes the sanctuary as a primary focus of that expansion out on Brown Street, but also finishing up what we had kind of left behind in that phase 1B, the commons area, the music band and acts facilities, and then also additional classrooms. Who'd have thought? You know, we opened up the school, maybe is this our third school year out there? Fourth school year now, and we need to expand already. Significant expansion, so we've been blessed beyond imagination from that standpoint. And just how that all kind of breaks out, and this is important just as we talk about the financing. If you recall, we said as we approach the financing portion of this, there will be two pieces that we would be able to use for financing. One, a normal conventional loan. So the church parts of the facilities, which accounts for about 62% of all of that cost and the square footage, That is something that we would have a normal, conventional type of a mortgage on. And that did close. We were able to, from a timing standpoint, again, you talk about timing and blessings that we've experienced here at St. Matthews. It did close on that financing terms at 3.99% for that conventional type loan. The school portion of it does qualify for bonding, and the advantage of that, really probably the simplest portion of it, it is a significantly lower interest rate on that for the bonding portion of the school part of the facility. So that's where that's kind of that 60-40 split is important for us from that standpoint. One of the things that struck me, we all know what's been going on with interest rates and with those types of things. Again, the timing of the folks that had worked on bringing this and our partners that worked with that, I'm not sure we would have gotten those types of terms with a 3 in front of those numbers. It might be a 4 or something else. So we've certainly been blessed with that opportunity as well from a financing standpoint. And both of those are completed in early April. All of that financing is set up and ready for us from a construction standpoint. So how are we doing as a congregation in responding to the opportunity? The response from our congregation has been, again, absolutely humbling and amazing to see at the same time. Back in December when we had our Commitment Sunday, we had just under $3.3 million in commitments from our members from a 3-year commitment standpoint. So far, we've actually received about 30% of those commitments have been received already to date. And of that, about just under $1 million of the $1.1 million that we've received have been towards those commitments. But there's also been just about $100,000 above and beyond what those commitments were from members of our congregation. And so again, thanks be to God and thanks be to all of our members for the support in moving forward. And we continue to see commitments from our members, and we continue to see and receive gifts. And as Pastor was talking this morning about our circumstances, I think for us at St. Matthews, it's pretty simple as well, that the circumstances around us are phenomenal opportunity for us to spread the word, to spread the gospel, and be able to use those facilities as tools in that. That's the opportunity that's around us. This you'll see out in the fireside room as well, and just this really is what we're working towards, is this little gap in between what we've received to date, all of the different parts that will add up to ultimately paying for those, the entire project, with some financing left over at the end. But again, we've been truly blessed and continue to move forward. One question has come up a number of different times regarding the different envelopes as people do continue to give offerings toward the Forward program. This was our old envelope that we had. It should not be in our envelope package this year, but this was our Forward envelope. Initially, if you recall, that was what we had used for initial capital campaign, but over the last couple of years, that was also used to help pay the interest and principal on the debt that we have on the school and the First Steps part of it. So that kind of became our debt retirement portion of our offerings. That's no longer in our packets, and there really are 3 different envelopes that are in our packet. There's the Forward envelope. That would be specifically the desire of the use of that is for the capital amount of it. So as we're continuing the building project, any and all of those funds would go to help pay down what we might have to borrow. So that's that 3-year period. So we'll continue to use this envelope for the next 3 years to go to basically be our capital account. We'll continue. There is a debt retirement offering envelope in our packets. That is the envelope that if you would like to give towards that normal debt that we have that currently is covering the principal and interest on our current loan, that would be the envelope for that. And ultimately on the bottom, we do also have the special offering envelope. We can do those things. So just, again, there's been a few questions on what envelope do I use for what? Hopefully this helps to clear it up. If not, please feel free to ask. So the next thing is that we've started to hear, obviously, as we're beginning to break ground out on Brown Street. What about the Wisconsin Avenue property? What are we doing here? We continue to have our lease arrangement with LCCA, and that has been going very well, very smooth. that continues to be a great relationship. In fact, they are looking for some growth. So they have asked, is there any way that they could possibly use in the coming school year the lower level and maybe do a couple of modifications down there for expanded school space or classroom space down in our lower level fellowship area. We would still have access to that on weekends, after school hours, but again, they continue to grow. So we're talking with them, working out, is that something that we can help accommodate? There'll be probably about an 8 to 10 month window between when next school year would start and when we would be fully out at Brown Street. So we're working through with them, possibly expanding their leased space into that fellowship area. Additionally, over the past year, we have had a number of people have approached us. Once we had announced that we were going to begin this project, we had a number of, whether it be investors or developers and some other church entities in the area have approached us over the past year about our Wisconsin Avenue site. Some of them I'd call kind of mild tire kickers, just seeing, can they come in and take a look around? Is it something that they would like to invest in and maybe develop something or repurpose the facilities for it? Not a whole lot has transpired with that. However, very recently we have, I guess at this point I would say, a very, very, very interested buyer of the property that would be very interested as is with the facility. So we have had some really good discussions with them, and we hope that in the next week or so we might have something to be able to come back to the congregation and say, is this something that we should consider as a congregation? So from a timing standpoint, that might involve us doing some temporary worship out at our Brown Street location in some period of time. Really depends on what those interests and what those terms would be. But blessed again to say that we have some folks that are very interested in the facility here, and that is a part of our moving forward plan. So with that, and we'll take questions at the end. So if you have any questions on any of these areas, we should have some time at the end of the forum. So with that, I'll pass it on to Mark. He'll cover kind of the general where we are from a project standpoint, and then Shar gets to share a lot of the fun details a little bit later.
Thanks, Bob. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How's everyone doing today? I'm sorry, how's everyone doing today? We got a lot to be thankful for, right? What a great sermon by Pastor Bigelow this morning. Holy smokes. When you're talking about circumstances equal what? And where we're at today, we have a lot to be joyful for, an incredible amount to be joyful for. So this facility is just that. It's an incredible facility that really is prominent to Highway P and to the community. As you can tell in our master plan, we had the school initially, and then we had the church facing P to really be prominent, to show everyone who we are and that we truly are an incredible, strong Christian organization, Christian church and membership. So who can tell me how many acres we're on now? No. This property right here, how many acres? 3. Actually, less than 3. How many acres do we have today on Brown Street? 19. So almost 3 times. We have how many square footage here today? 35,000 approximately. We are now going to have how many square feet? Who wants to take a guess? 90,000. So almost 2.5 times of what we have today. What an incredible blessing, and how much of this space and this land, and again, I just love Marlene Schumacher and Hans and others that put this all into place in terms of this positioning out in that community in one of the greatest and growing areas of the community in terms of residential and in partnership with the school and the city. We've also got a lot more to consider there for the park and everything. So that is more of the entrance rather than the school. We now have a church, an incredible bell tower. Anyone remember how large or how tall the bell tower is? 76 feet high, which is, you can only go to 90, so we're getting pretty close. But what an incredible area and beacon for us to have a bell tower to show our traditional heritage. We're 100 years old and more. We've got an incredible tradition. By the way, who knew that Tim's granddad was Otto Plazy? Wow. Yeah. What an incredible video that was, too. So here we have the traditional bell tower to really show and a beacon to the community who we are as a Christian church. And one of my favorite features is actually that carport, so that you can drop your family off and they don't get wet when they enter church. Elevations and entries, and so here you'll see the church more prominent, both as you enter and also from Highway P and when you're coming from north. You can tell that the church itself really does stand out more than the gymnasium by height and strength in terms of that look. So we have both the school and the classroom in the green on your left, and on the right we have our sanctuary with multicolors, and so we also have most of the sanctuary in darker bluish purple, and then the gathering space below, and then we have commons, music room, office space, and space for corridors for better access to our school and to our areas that we'll be doing a lot of work in. Between the commons, the music room, the administration offices, just a ton of extra workable space really to build our ministry. Again, this is just a building. It's the people that will be in this building, and you and all of us, that will make a difference in terms of how we continue to build on an incredibly important aspect of our ministry work. So offices and a large conference room, extra storage for tables and chairs. Obviously, we needed more space for our kids to eat out of, and also have extra Bible study in the commons area, and expanding the kitchen was important to us, and so that we can actually have a greater area for concessions and also for our kitchen for our commons. And then the classrooms. Remember, the classrooms are important because our school is expanding and growing so much, and it's developing just a constant aspect of a community approach where we need extra space. So we have funding right now to do 2 classrooms, where we will shell out the 4 classrooms at this point, and ideally, if we continue to build on a really important capital campaign, ideally we could even finish those classrooms by the end of our building period. So again, this is about 8,500 square feet, where the sanctuary and the commons, the music room, and that aspect is about 32,000 square feet. So again, adding 40,000 additional square feet to our footprint, where the school is approximately 50,000 square feet. So again, what a blessing that we have in terms of that layout. Now, the really exciting part, Shar is going to be talking about interiors and all the wonderful things that we're doing there, and she has been doing some yeoman's work, so please give it up for Shar, everyone.
All right, so we have had a committee that has been working since last July. We started out doing site visits. There was a good core group. We have new members, we have longtime members. We have people with varied backgrounds, and it's all been very valuable to us as a group as we've gone out and looked at things and then had vendors come in and show us things. So we scouted out a total of 10 locations. Not all of them were Wells churches. We took a lot of photos. We did a lot of note-taking. Our whole purpose on the site visits really was to determine what really good ideas we saw out there and what things we didn't like. And all of that served as a very valuable resource for us as we've continued to make decisions now over the months. I'm showing 2 different altars here. We determined very early on that our most important decisions would all be based upon the focal point of the chancel of the church, what we refer to as our home plate. We're also very concerned about the acoustical aspects of such large spaces, whether it be the sanctuary, the gathering space, the commons area. and even the chapel. And we wanted to be sure that our decisions allow for the best transmission of sound for a singing congregation as well as the spoken word. That being said, we will have hearing loop installed in all of these areas as well, which should be a real benefit for those of you that use hearing aids, Bluetooth hearing aids. We also were very mindful that we are building for future generations of St. Matthews. So we want to make sure that we're looking for things that would be really important for our young families and trying to anticipate what families of the future would be looking for in their church. Pastor Hilmer worked with Pastor Pope. Pastor Pope is the designer of these two particular altar settings. He worked with him in the past. Pastor Pope runs a design build firm that specializes in chancel furnishings and artwork. So we went to Christ in Pewaukee, which is the church on the left, and Emmanuel Greenville on the right. He also did work at Martin Luther College as well. Their chapel was done by him. We visited Crown of Life, a small group visited Crown of Life in Hubertus, not an official visit. That was more of a let's go scout it out kind of thing. So you can see variations in the altar furniture there. We also visited Faith Antioch as a group. That didn't turn out too good on the big screen, I guess. This is to kind of show you some of the detail of the work that's done in the altar itself in terms of the woodwork. Both Pastor Pope and Pastor Hilmer gave us really good instruction on the reasons and the options for the various components and the art that's involved in chancel furnishings, and you'll be hearing more about that in the coming months. There is some information out in the fireside room about the MLC chapel. If you're interested in looking at that, there's some explanations of things that were done there. Oops, went ahead here. There we go. You're going to hear the word ambo. Some of you who have been in Bible study have heard it when we were doing the Bible study on church furnishings. The left is an ambo. It's kind of the replacement for a pulpit and lectern combined. If you think about a pulpit, that's something more that the pastor is enclosed within when they step into the pulpit like they do here. An ambo is to allow more free movement, kind of like a lectern, but a little bit more massive. So you'll see ambo in our chancel. And then we are still working on some of the things with regard to baptismal fonts. So this is the baptismal font. I believe this is the one in Faith Antioch, yeah. So a much more massive font. And then we looked at a number of different ones. We haven't made decisions on that yet. Some of these decisions kind of got pushed off a bit because we had many more building-related decisions that had to be done for Catalyst, the construction firm. So now that the decisions related to the building of the building itself are done, we're going to be focusing back on the things that we still have left to do for furniture and furnishings and fixtures and that kind of stuff. We've made some decisions with regard to seating in the sanctuary itself. What you're seeing here are radius seating pews. We decided we needed to go that route because if you can't see this very well on here, but we've got a section of chairs on the left, which will be to give us some flexibility if we have larger choral groups or we hold band concerts and things like that. We wanted to have seating that we could move in and out on the left. That's those blue boxes. And the front row is also showing chairs. There will be chairs from the choir loft as well. But we went with the radius pews because no matter where you sit, in whichever section you sit in, your body will be facing towards our focal point, which is the chancel of the church. And we felt that that was really important. The pews that we selected, the pews we selected are based off of this model, which is from St. Luke's in Waukesha. The pews that we had them designed, though, the end caps are going to be just a little bit shorter where they attach to the back because we wanted it to be more like our pews here, where that end cap is closer to the backbone of the pew itself. We also selected continuous pew racks versus the type that you see in the pews here now, where they're just screwed in after the fact. So there will be a continuous pew rack all the way across, which will give us plenty of room to house enough hymnals, enough psalters, Bibles, children's Bibles, the friendship registers, all that in the pews. So that we felt was an important decision also. We also are going to have 2 different types of chairs. For the chairs in the sanctuary itself, that would be the chairs on the left. Those, when you see them from the back, look just like a pew, and they will have that continuous pew rack associated with the back of those also. The chairs on the right are the chairs that we will be using in the chapel and for the choir area. Those are more designed for sitting at the right type of posture for singing and for playing an instrument. They're also a little bit cheaper than the other chairs, and so we had to make some decisions in that respect because the cost of pews was a bit higher, we'll just say a bit higher than what we had originally anticipated. Now we've got some photos showing the different selections that we have made in terms of colors and where the stone will be located and things like that. This is the gathering space. You're walking in from the parking lot, kind of under the carport that Mark was showing. This is what you would see when you first come into the building. There is a carpeted area in the center of that gathering space to help absorb sound because we expect and want people to be visiting and talking there, but we don't want it to become difficult to hear if we were to go with the polished cement throughout that whole area. This is now the view of the gathering space when you're walking out of church to go to the parking lot or go to the chapel. So you see the coffee area is on the left. The doors to the left of the fireplace would be the doors to the chapel, and the doors to the right again would be the doors out to the carport area. This is the chapel itself. That faces out to the south. There's going to be 2 video monitors there. Part of our goal is that we would be able to live stream and or record Bible studies that are held there. So that'll be set up with all the technology to be able to do that, as well as the other main meeting spaces will be set up with that also. Now this is the entrance to the main sanctuary. So you see our focal point in the center there, the chancel area, which the back of that will be mainly stone. And then we have the stained glass window up at the top. We have not made the decisions for the design of the stained glass window yet, or for the design of the cross that would be hanging over the altar itself. Those are some of the things that we're going to be working on next. If you look over on the left-hand side, you can see a guitarist there. Behind where the guitarist is standing, we will have a dedicated space for handbells. So the handbell tables will be able to be set up all the time. No more lugging those heavy tables like we have up here today. So that'll be kind of a nice thing. This is the view from the music platform off to the left of the sanctuary. That will be up a step from the level of the congregation itself. And I'm using this to also promote membership in the choir. We have 2 big choir events coming up, the groundbreaking. We'd love to have you join us to sing for that and for the anniversary. So if you're interested, there's all kinds of notes in the worship folder starting next week and in the newsletter that comes out this month. I don't know what happened to the... Did I go too far? Little technical difficulty here. The table of samples is out in the fireside room, and so if you have questions, feel free to contact myself or any of the members of the Interior Committee. Oh, we have a long list. Help me. Betty Royal, Pastor Bigelow, Pastor Hilmer, Joy Oleski, Nicole Bessert, Dave Ebert, Amber Terry, Mark Klug, Mary Thiele. Tom Thiele was also on many of our site visits. Tony Kobison was on many of our site visits. Lucas Krogman. I did say Joy. Okay, I think I hit most everybody.
Thank you, Shar. Tim, absolutely. The comment about the work that's been done to get to that point before we actually do stick a shovel in the ground is quite amazing. We like this so much we just keep playing it, I guess. Sorry. Kyle, do you have the button? You keep playing it. Do you have the do-over button again on it? Oh, I got it. So although a tremendous amount has happened, obviously, to date, and we are right on the cusp, I thought it was rather interesting in the bulletin, and Pastor also announced today that on May 25th, we dedicated this facility 70 years ago. I mean, this is kind of amazing that on May 25th, our first construction meeting is happening out at Brown Street. So next Wednesday, we're meeting up. If you've gone out there, the construction trailer is out front. That's where their team is going to be meeting on a regular basis. A couple of us will be meeting, is it weekly to start out first, Mark? Wednesday mornings to kind of just, where are we on the construction project so that we can stay in sync. Are there things that we need or things that we might be able to see or things that they need from us that we can carry back on a weekly basis? So that's starting next week, Wednesday. For groundbreaking service on June 5th. And then also, as Shar had mentioned, there's still plenty of work to do with continuing to refine a lot of those final details with the furnishing, the finishes, the fixtures. One of the key parts that I know Shar mentioned a couple of times, the acoustics, the communications, whether it be the acoustics of the facility itself, fellowship area or the gathering space, or in the sanctuary, a tremendous amount of focus on that. But also that Bluetooth, that hearing loop portion of it, that will be throughout all of those parts of the new facility. So to have that available to us, that's all being thought of and being taken into consideration in advance. But still plenty of work to do. And again, thank you to that group of folks that have been working on that part of the project. And then as we move forward, people have already begun to ask, what can I do? How can I get involved? If I wasn't on one of the committees, what are some of the volunteer opportunities? There are some sheets that are currently out in the fellowship area, and Catalyst has helped us. They know that we have a group of people here at St. Matthew's that want to roll up their sleeves and continue to be involved. So there are sign-up sheets. Whatever you have the opportunity, whether it's an hour or a day or a week's worth of time, we'll have opportunities. So there are sign-up sheets there, and if you have questions on that, both Mark and also Debbie Kuklinski are also available to help answer your questions on, hey, if I would like to help with this, when would it be, and when can I get involved? Cleanup, on the last go-around, we shouldn't have to do that. You know, it was putting out heat mats down on the concrete. We shouldn't have to do that because the concrete, we hope, it should be poured well before. I shouldn't jinx it. We might get snow next week now that I said that, right? But you never can tell. So tremendous amount of opportunities. And as we move forward with those classroom activities, if we begin to build those out earlier, sooner rather than later, whether that's they do it or we do it, painting, all kinds of opportunities. So look for that and continue to reach out to those on the various committees for any help that you might be looking to provide. Any questions? Yes, sir. That would be to the north, yes. Yep. That would be up above the cross area, yep.
The answer is as tall as the pastor is, I guess. No, I say that jokingly, but we are still working on the final design for the AMBO, so we will take that into account. It will be more massive than the lectern, but I don't know for sure what the height of that's going to be yet. And the platform is 2 steps up, so that's a whole foot higher than the rest of the. I don't think this is too. Well, maybe it is. Can you not see them when they do the lectern? Okay. Right, that's true. The depth of the new sanctuary will not go back as far. Pastor Bigelow, did you have a comment?
Just to that, one big factor in that is the new sanctuary will only be 10 rows of pews deep versus 25. So the sight lines will be much, much better all around.
We did make some considerations in that respect. Originally, we were thinking of taking some of the existing furniture here to the chapel area, and in fact, taking the stone altar, determined that taking the stone altar was probably not going to work, but the lectern, the baptismal font will get used in the new chapel. Jim?
I have a question, Char. Is the organ going to be over by where the piano was on the left side?
Yes, that whole platform will be the music area for anything that we have. We will have a grand piano, we will have the organ over there, instruments, the handbells.
Okay.
Yeah. Dan?
Those will be in this area here. So we'll be able to have a line of sight from, is it this room that's the AV room, or this is the AV room here? So anybody that's doing that would be right in this area. Organ is over here? Right.
So part of the thinking behind that is you have if you are working that versus being upstairs here with the sound, in the live stream is you can't always hear very well up there, and this way they'll have a good sight line and they'll be able to hear everything very well in terms of how the sanctuary itself is hearing the sound. Pat, you got another question? Yeah, it's in that area there, and it'll be kind of a combination. It'll kind of curve in that area, the way that the curve of the floor goes there? No. It'll be up on the platform. This would be if we have, say, the seminary choir, or we have Lakeside here, and they have a huge choir, that we can use those chairs in a way that they can all sit and sing together and stand for where they are, that type of thing. Bill?
I assume we're going to have screens with the service on it. Where are those going to be compared to the center cross?
They're going to be on the 2 sides. Let's see if we can find. further down yet. Next one. There we go. See, whoop. So that's the chapel. You see two of them there. They'll be up so that they are not interfering with our focal point, but they will be there that people can see them no matter where you're sitting in the church. So our AV and acoustic people are working on all those details.
Are the screens?
Yes.
Okay.
The black right here. So if you were on this half, you'd be kind of looking through one of the things we're talking in the past is the positioning of those screens, to position them so that if you were sitting on the far left side, or that being your left, you'd be looking across through the chancel area instead of looking away from the pastor. They're up here, so you'd be actually looking through there. And vice versa from the other side. So they would be positioned so that it would have a good line of sight, both for the screen and to the pastor or to the speaker up in the chancel area. Marlene, did you? I'm sorry.
Marlene? So there's going to be liturgical storage in the area behind the altar, and that will be accessed. Whoop. There we go. We can go here. The liturgical storage will be through those doors there. And then there will be a sacristy for communion preparation and all of that. You probably have to look at the floor plan for that. That'll be kind of more in the area of where we were looking for the AV room to be. We are trying to, the question is about the east window, that huge window in the sanctuary. We were hopeful that we were going to be able to install a system like St. Paul's Lake Mills has, which is like the state-of-the-art, automatically changing the tinting of the windows to keep the sun under control. We're finding that companies won't do a job of our size any longer. That was kind of a test project for the company that did St. Paul's and Lake Mills, and they're not willing to look at our job, unfortunately. So we're trying to come up with what do we do now instead. I can't see who that is back there. Mr. Andreessen.
I'm interested in the handicap portion. Looks like the wheelchairs are way in the back. I've been to many theaters that they always stick the handicap in the back row. I'm more concerned about having more people.
It just so happens that this view, you're seeing them in the back. We have them in a number of spots. Up in the front, there was wheelchairs in the front row of that. There we go. And then with the flexible seating that we have on the left-hand side as well, we can easily put wheelchairs there.
These chairs that right now are shown they're kind of shown floating. They're not really floating chairs. We didn't go that far over the top. Hover chairs are not a part of the design. But these are chair removable areas. So, if we do have a larger musical group that we want to bring in, that's where, I think somebody mentioned those little blue boxes. That's those little blue boxes. So those can be taken down, moved out of the way if we have, again, a larger area. Or if we find that we do need more accessible areas there, we could take a row of those out, and that can be more permanent from a handicap access standpoint. Debbie?
That was my question too. When it comes to communion, is it going to be handicap accessible, or do they have to step up?
Communion will be on the floor as it is today, so the pastors will move along the step, but everybody else will be on the floor itself. We're still trying to figure out what the pattern of that will be. The pastors are working on that.
There is also accessibility up to the chancel area. Off on the side, there is a ramp. So that would go all the way back to be able to give access to that back storage area so that it's full accessibility. The ramp would actually be, think off on this side of the chancel area coming up for accessibility there too. There are not entrances. The question was about accessibility. We saw on one of the diagrams, I think maybe even on the video tour, it showed walkways on the east side of the building. There is not accessibility there. Those are pathways. Part of it is for egress type requirements from a code standpoint. So there will be maybe an exit door there for emergency purposes, but there will not be entrances on that east side of the building. It really became we tried a number of different times to look at the possibility of having parking or some level of accessibility there, but that really changed a lot of the egress and entrance requirements from a code standpoint. All of those entryways would have to be in-out controlled and with roofs. It really got into a very, very complex part of it. So those pathways are just going to be some, at least at this point, I'm not sure they'll even be paved initially, possibly some paving of that, just for some walkway access to the back part of the facilities. I think we have a couple more minutes for maybe a couple more questions, if we have them. Chris. The question was, if we have an interested buyer in this facility, how might that affect our lease arrangement with LCCA? Currently, we have a 3-year lease with the option for them to extend that to 4 or 5 years. If somebody purchases the property, the way that is developed, they would own that lease. They would take over that lease at that point in time. So obviously, what we need to weigh into that is we would be potentially losing that revenue from the lease, so therefore any purchase price that we would have to have for this facility would have to at least compensate for our loss of revenue on that. And that is absolutely, that's been at the forefront of any discussions that we've had. But yeah, whoever owns it, the nice part about it for a future owner is that gives them the ability to be more aggressive with a potential purchase, because they've got a couple years worth of lease revenue that is in the contract with LCCA that they would be able to take over. Right. We would not lose that income. That's a part of our strategy. It might come on the front end. Instead of having to wait 3 years, we might get it all up front instead. That would be the plan. Any other questions? Going once? It's been really, and the encouragement and the support has been phenomenal. So it's, as Pastor said, you know, our circumstances, remarkable opportunity. I was feeling that as soon as he said that, remarkable opportunity came to mind for me. So Betty? Yeah, 500 members probably looked at this and said, how are we going to do that? Right? Yes. And Shar has been a huge advocate of that. I mean, there was some discussion about even the renovation, not renovation, we were doing some repair on the gymnasium floor from some damage that happened, and Shar right away was, is that an opportunity for us to put a Bluetooth loop in? Well, we'd have to tear up the whole floor, so probably not, but she's been on that, definitely. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.